My name is Mary Ellen Quinlaney. I'm the director for FAU Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, and we're happy to have you here this evening. This is our third presentation. If you know a little bit about CARD, FAU CARD, there's 7 CARD centers in the state of Florida, and FAU is one of 7. And we serve Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. We have 3 offices, one in Boca, one in Jupiter, and then one up in Indian River State College in Port St. Lucie. So this is our third presentation. We were able to get some funding from the Mangorian Foundation, and they kindly allowed us to have this Autism Speaker Series. This is the 3rd year that we've been doing it. And John Miller is one of our local celebrities. John, if you don't know, is, you'll be hearing a lot about his life this evening, but he is a teacher for Palm Beach County School District. He is, works with the National Autism Society of America, and was recognized with an award this past summer. And he's also on our constituency board. So we're real happy to have John here. He's been a wonderful support. You've been on the board for about 5 years, I think. Yes. Now. So thank you all for coming. And hopefully John's books are in the back. Thank you to the bookstore for coming over and selling them. Thank you. And if you would like any additional information, I can add you to our distribution list. We have lots of events. We have an event, a mental health conference up on the Jupiter campus. Most of our events we do on the Jupiter campus because that's central for our 5-county region. So on May 5th, we have a mental health conference. We're going to be talking about comorbidity and the incidence of global anxiety disorder in individuals with autism. And then in the summer, we do a 2-day conference for teachers, for related service personnel like speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and that's on the Jupiter campus. And then we'll start all of our events again in the fall. We have we bring in several national speakers every year. So want to thank you and welcome you and introduce you to John.
Thank you. Good evening. The way I'm going to speak, can everybody hear me without the microphone? Because I'd like to move around. I have a very interesting way of giving a presentation. I don't care if you interrupt, making a statement, asking a question. I'm here for you, not for me. I want to help demystify some things about autism, give some strategies, pointers, walking through the shoes personally and professionally. The title that I put today, because Mary Ellen asked me to speak about my life, is an interesting and peculiar journey indeed. My adventures and misadventures of living with autism. That this is a disclaimer of sorts. It's important to know that individuals with autism need to define themselves and not have other people define them. Some people say, if you want to be proper, like APA, living with autism. I sort of have an issue with that because you know what? Autism isn't my partner, my lover, or a piece of furniture. I say autistic. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but it's an individual choice. We don't want or need to be rescued. We want equity. Equity in the sense that, you know what? There's things we're going to need help with. Give us the resources. Give my students the resources. Give people that are living with autism those resources that they need to more likely succeed. And also, stability is very important in my life and for my students. Giving them stability helps them grow. It helps them evolve. It helps them change. With my students, no matter what they do, I'm not going to give up on them. I had a student earlier this year that said, you know what, I can't write. Whenever we had to do a writing assessment for the county, I can't do this, and a lot of times he'd bomb out. This year for FSA writing, he told me I can't do it. I nagged him to death. I'm like his biggest cheerleader. He wrote 5 paragraphs. That's what shows giving students the skills they need and to have them feel like someone has their back. a long, long time ago, not in a galaxy far away. Does anyone know where I sort of stole the heading from? Yes, Star Wars. I do not live in that galaxy, even though I like that galaxy. In 1968, when I was born with autism, it was a rarely diagnosed condition. It was like a lot less than 1 in 10,000. Over time, the diagnosis levels have changed, not because there's an epidemic. How we look at it and how we diagnose it is a lot different. We're becoming more aware of not just people that are severely affected by autism, but people that are less affected that need help and support. Many people, including myself, were misdiagnosed with other conditions. When I was a year old, my parents thought I was hearing impaired and had me tested. You know what doctor said? Doctor said, your son can hear, he's just ignoring you. Which is one of the hallmarks of someone with autism. You're living in your own world. At 2, I was significantly developmentally delayed, and after a half-hour visit with a psychiatrist, I was diagnosed as mentally impaired. Think about it now. 2 graduate degrees, and I'm considering doing a doctorate when my daughter's old enough. That if my parents just went with that, I would not be here speaking tonight. I would not be married. I would not have my daughter. Okay. I'm sorry about that. That a moment in time, until I was 3, I was in a school for children with intellectual disabilities called the Miriam School, which is in Montreal. I was not toilet trained and did not speak until after I turned 3. Several times I jumped out of the window of our apartment and wondered. So people say when you look at someone that's, quote, high-functioning autistic, which I don't like, because you're putting gradations on people. We're a spectrum, we're along. If you meet one person with autism, you're meeting one person with autism. You meet me, you meet someone diplomatic. You meet my father, who's very likely autistic. He is not diplomatic. I won't bring him here, don't worry. And my parents had to put locks and doors on the windows and drawers so I would not get out of the apartment or harm myself when I was young. Does everybody, I'll give the slides later, does everybody mind, because I'm having a problem with this, if I just go along? Yes, please. Thank you. I apologize for that. Thank you. The next one, please. Whoa. Reoccurring theme. Thank you. Bingo. My father had a very difficult childhood where he was labeled as an unachiever. I come from Canada. When you live in Canada, especially in the 40s and early 50s, English Canada was very British. It was very conformist. My father had one teacher, he said, Miller, when I come in, you go out. My father couldn't deal well with stimulation. My father did not learn how everybody else learned. He was a visual learner. And he dropped out of school at 15 because of the difficulties. Both of my parents' philosophy was that they knew me best. And this is important for the parents here. You know your child best. Don't have someone tell you what is or isn't. Listen, but be your child's backer. I cannot overemphasize that point. They raised and didn't lower expectations I was expected to do throughout. Situations and obstacles that I faced were viewed in a realistic manner. If I had difficulty, they got me help. They didn't pretend that there was not a problem. That they would look at each step realistically and they would develop a strategy how to help me. They never enabled me. This is something that's a big sticking point with me. Not to make excuses and say, oh, poor so-and-so, they can't do this, they can't do that. If certain people in my family who had that attitude, I would not be here today. I may have gone to college, but I would not have the job that I had, the experiences that I had. Switch. Oh, Canada, land of conformity. When I began elementary school, it was hard for me to concentrate and sit in one place. It was really horrible because they gave me this room where there was a huge bay of windows. You would see the trees waving, you would see squirrels playing. Do you think I was paying attention to the lesson? No, everything outside. I had very few friends in elementary school because beyond a certain age, you can't like bring people over to your house and have play dates. It just doesn't happen that way. So it's quite difficult. Teachers found me disruptive, and I spent most of my elementary school in the hallway. Unless I was Superman, I was not going to see the lesson, and that made me go several years behind in my cognitive development. I was tormented from my peculiar behavior. I was a walking encyclopedia of facts when I was in elementary school. As a matter of fact, one time I had a child smash my teeth into the pavement and I had to get my teeth filed. And nothing was done at the school about it. The school did really nothing, and this is something important still today. If something happens and you feel it's not being addressed properly, you need to go to the school. If the school's not handling it, you go to the district or speak with the advocates on behalf of the district, and it will be taken care of. I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old as severely learning disabled, and a psychologist predicted I'd be in menial labor and not be able to throw a ball. Do you see, it's the diagnosis is changing along the way. I did not have proper eye contact until I was 32 years old. I was taught by the speech pathologist at FAU because of Professor Lydia Smiley. I have a great deal of respect and adore that got me that. And I found comfort in books and history that I wasn't reading in class, but guess what I was doing at home? Reading all the time. I had World Book encyclopedias. I'm aging myself big time. That there were food stains all over. I was always had my nose in a book. Creating the conditions for growth and flexibility. By being exposed to many different foods, and I was given limited alternatives, this was a positive thing because it made me less finicky about food. It sort of helped having a foodie autistic person as a father. I was exposed to so many things. He's still nagging me to eat fish, and I'm 48 years old. That's the only thing he has, and that and coffee. But when I wouldn't eat the dinner, I was given grilled cheese, not what I wanted. So that made me more flexible of what I would eat. If I went to a restaurant, I was told to try something new. And I was taken to many different restaurants, more than most children should be taken to.